All right, so pretty much just right now, start introducing to yourself.
I'm Martin Matthews. I live in a little village called Bookham, just outside of London. Very nice, friendly community. And here we are today. Met my friend John today online from Canada. So much in common. Never met the man before. And it appears all the friends I make now in my new global family, we all have a similar problem. Cookie crumbles pretty much the same for all of us. So
Just go ahead and tell me what you got. Just don't
Yeah,
mention any names if you don't want to.
No, I can't. I don't want to identify these people at all.
That's fine.
Here in London, we've got I've had contact with a lot of families experiencing all kinds of problems when they go anywhere near the UK government. It's just something really absurd taking place right on my doorstep at the moment. I know an African father. He's a close friend of mine, and we've been friends for about 10 years plus.
Okay.
About 5 or 6 years ago, his ex-wife, he'd separated from his wife, went on a 2-week holiday to Africa. Now, before that, mother and father were raising their children as a separated family and just getting on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Mum left the children with his sister here in London
Mm-hmm.
and went on a holiday to Africa and failed to return. Now, when that happened, the young sister of my African friend probably decided that since Mum hadn't returned, she could probably take over Mum's house and get government benefit money to have her hair done and do all the fine things, girlfriend. So without telling father, she went down to social services and made all kinds of applications. The result of that was...
Pretending to be the mother.
No, not pretending to be the mother, but explaining that the mother hadn't returned and that she was the carer of the children at this point in time.
Oh, okay.
So social services then immediately took the children into care. They didn't contact father, and I've been helping father with his contact for the last 5 or 6 years. He's been seeing his children supervised in a contact centre with absolutely no reason for it. And being a proud African man, I can say his attitude is he doesn't take shit up anybody, but I don't think most people do, regardless of gender.
Not if you're human.
No, and all the normal things, becoming angry and frustrated, all the normal human stuff. Anyway, his relationship with his 2 children has deteriorated to a point where it's bad right now, friend. Everyone in that little family is hurting. Now, moving on, here comes the interesting bit.
Okay.
My African friend has now formed a relationship with a new partner, and they had a little baby a few months ago. Before the new baby was born, UK Social Services approached her and told her quite clearly that if father has anything to do with the new baby, that they would take the new baby into care. So effectively, they banned her from having a relationship with him. This is where it gets interesting, see? The good African people in our community, church people is how I describe them, have now managed to set up a system whereby in the village where Mum comes from, there's actually an African person pretending to be mother with a newborn baby. And since social services have appointed a new social worker to the family, the new social worker doesn't realise that she's supervising the wrong person or the wrong people. In the meantime, my friend, his partner and baby are living as fugitives in London, hiding from the law in order to have a private family life. And you know, when I visit them, it makes me so sad because there's nothing wrong with that family. There is nothing wrong. Take my word for it. So it's just absurd to see this all go on here in London. Does that actually make sense to you, John? It's a little bit complicated, but I don't think you could make this shit up.
No, you can't make that up. You gotta be very creative if you made that up, but no.
Well, yeah, that's how things are here in London. You know, the other thing which struck me on the internet about a week before Christmas
Uh-huh.
was there's a family that's been doing home education in the UK, and the criteria for home education has been met, and the education people here in the UK have complimented Mum on the way she's been teaching her two daughters, who, in point of fact, have a slightly higher standard of education than most other children of their age. Social services decided that they were going to make an unannounced visit to the house, and fortunately this family was quick enough on their toes that they could flee the country. And they arrived in the Republic of Ireland, just across the water, and the UK government issued an international arrest warrant for them. When the Irish police and social workers went to execute the warrant, they found a happy family, so they decided not to do anything about it. But the point I want to draw you to is the Irish government
Uh-huh.
gave that family refugee status, and the reason they gave was the UK is the only country in the world where they can take your children without any evidence. Now that's interesting coming from the Irish government, and it does slag off the UK government, but I'm not entirely convinced that the UK is the only country that does this, see?
Nope, me neither.
No, but it is interesting that things like that are coming out, albeit by accident.
I think there's more hidden agendas with these children, I think.
Well, friend, you know, I'm a father and I'm a plumber by trade, and politics and this lot is something that never really interested me until I got shafted 10 years ago.
Me neither, but I'm just starting to see it. I'm starting to see a chain reaction, and in every country, it's the same thing. These kids are taken, and then a large percentage of them are either being sold and mistreated, thrown into bad foster homes.
John, I think you're quite right. It's a money motivated exercise, and it's got nothing to do with helping anybody in our society.
No, it's a cash cow business.
We've all got, yeah, I think we've all got to a point now where the system has processed so many of us that they've woken up a sleeping giant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from now on, us ordinary people need to put in a little bit of effort and create something from scratch to help us when we need help, and to go away when we don't need help.
Do you have any ideas?
Completely new, and we need to throw. Well, all I can say, look, I'm not that much of a problem solver, but what I can say is, if we look at what's been done in the name of family law over the last 2-3 decades, as it were, everything that they have touched has turned to absolute shit.
It does.
And you just need to look at their own analysis of their own behaviour. They say it with their own mouth, so that's not really something we need to argue or convince anymore. We know it's rotten. What I'm suggesting is, if we look at the world when it was a smaller place and we lived in smaller villages and in smaller communities, you know, there was a time when we respected school teachers, and there was a time when we had people in our community like the postmaster and the station master, and people we could go to and talk to if we had problems, and within the community it would be sorted out immediately. I think we need to try and get some of that back, because you know that actually works, friend.
How do you think some of that stuff vanished and got pushed away?
It's just a enormous amount of legislation. I mean, just to point you at something, our last Labour government, while they were in power for their 10 years, created thousands of new rules or statutes, thousands upon thousands. I think we're looking at about 15,000 plus for a 10-year period. You know, governments are getting carried away with what they think we need, and yes, they are doing work, A lot of them are good, decent people, but it's just got to a point now, particularly with families, it cannot carry on the way it's going. It cannot. And we need to put a stop to it, friend. I'm saying families are bigger than any government in the world. I've got no, yeah, I've got no idea how to solve that family's problem. I just wish them the best of luck, and more than that, I can be supportive.
Okay.
I really don't know what we can do to solve this. I really don't. Funnily enough, it's possible for any judge in this country to sort it out by one phone call and a fax call order, but the chances of that happening, it's really not worth the risk.
Do you think me putting out these interviews may be able to help a lot of people in a similar case?
Well, why I asked for you to for this interview, John, is I would like to point everyone in a direction, and by everybody I mean everybody. Belong proudly to a fathers group here in the UK, but this isn't about fathers; it's about families. With your internet skills aside, John, if we could promote something which has been put forward by a Pastor Paul. Now, I'm not a politician. Protesting doesn't really change things. However, I'm looking at this slightly differently. For the first time, we now have the internet, we've got Facebook, we're a global family, and we can communicate. What Pastor Paul is suggesting is that on the 14th of next month, which is Valentine's Day, that around Valentine's Day, i.e. the 13th or the 14th or the 15th, that we have an international protest. Now, the idea behind that is that we shame the USA government, which is the biggest on our planet, into the way that they treat their families. The idea being that if we can carry out this process effectively, and the US government does change its ways, then perhaps and hopefully we won't have to pick on any other country. That's the general idea behind it.
In other words, take on the American government in order to create a domino effect.
Well, hopefully that may happen. All that I can say is I'm inviting everybody to take part. Pastor Paul on his blog invites all of us, and his function in this is simply to unite us. This is not a Baptist exercise. It's not a father's exercise. It's a family exercise. And there's a great number of good American people within the States that are showing this support from all religions and persuasions. And abroad, I think we're probably between 12 to 20 strong, although that may change on the day. For those of us who live outside of the US, our instruction is to take children's toys and attach our own little letter, or our own position, or our own ego, or our own statement by way of letter to the toy, and simply leave the toy outside your local US embassy. Protest by all means, and if people can drum up media interest, have your say, make it your day. And let's see how the USA government deal with an international day of shame.
Oh yeah.
What we're looking at doing is on Valentine's Day is embarrassing the United States government on the way that it treats its families. And, you know,
I think that's a great idea.
You don't need to do much research, because if you look at yourself in your own country with your own problem, it's exactly the same wherever you go on the planet at this point. There are millions of us, millions and millions of us. I've been networking with people who don't even speak English through translators, and we're all singing from the same sheet, friend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm saying most loudly, and I'm pointing out the obvious, families are bigger than governments, and they really do need to start listening to us.
That's right.
And no, we're not going to attack them violently, and no, we're not going to do any of those things. But we are utterly disgusted in the way they treat us.
Exactly.
We ask them for help, and they process us like animal fodder. It's wrong, friend. and we all know it. It just needs to stop and change, you know. And the saddest thing is we've got things like now called parent alienation syndrome. And when I look at that, we all know what it means. We all know it's wrong. We all know it goes on. But when I look at that, I really get sad because, you know, it's something that we could change in one day with one stroke of a pen, never to come across again. Yet we sit here and we all make money of it, and we're all bullied into our little corners, and we remain quiet. And it's not on, friend.
It's time to change it.
Well, hopefully they are, yeah, and hopefully we can all be a little part of it, eh?
What do you feel about how people, when they are in their Facebook groups and stuff, I see a lot of them turning against each other and stuff, and they start bickering at each other when actually they should come together as a family and fight as one.
Yeah, indeed. That's why I'm really grateful to Pastor Paul for putting this together for us. He simply unites us, I repeat myself. This is not about him. It's not about his position. It's not about him making a speech on our behalf. He simply unites us. And, you know, if we can we don't even need to put our differences aside. If we can just ignore our differences and get on with the task at hand, I think we could have a very much better place to live in very quickly and very easily and very cheaply.
Do you think there's anything else that I should ask you or you should say?
I'm a bit overwhelmed by this all, John. It's a bit of a spur of the moment thing. I'm sure I'll think of a million good things as soon as I've hung up.
No, I'm sure this won't be the last time we have an interview either.
Well, thanks for that, John. Yeah, if I can contribute in a small way. Internet groups, etc. It's encouraging to see so many people coming forward so quickly. Personally, I don't think they are constructive, and you know, when people try to call for order, it seems like there's a tremendous amount of disorder. You know, we're all damaged, for want of a better word, and this shouldn't be about what groups can do for you or how people can help you improve your situation. This should be about what can I do for groups to make it a better world for all of us. I think if we play that way around, stop being selfish, we may get somewhere, friend.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%.
Well, stop agreeing with me. Say something. People will think it's fixed.
Yeah. No, it's not fixed. It's far from fixed. It's gonna take a lot more than the group that we have right now. So I want everybody to try and spread this around and about, and email these videos.
Yeah. Look, if for the 14th of February, you know, we're all family people and we've got priorities. We need to work. We need to do stuff. So it may not be possible for people to get down to their local U.S. embassy on the day. I understand that, no problem.
I think we should just make it for the full 3-day stretch. February 13th, 14th, and 15th, you go down to your local embassy and you drop off the toys with the attached letter. It's simple as that. Fill them up, make a big wall of toys. Why not? Doesn't that sound like a great idea?
It does, John. We can get onto that. But for those of us who can't make it, you know, and we can still network this. We can still get busy. And, you know, threatening to shame a government is by no means illegal. And from what we've got good on our side, yeah? And let's apply it, folks. Simple as that.
All we are is just speaking our voice. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. All right, John.
Anyway,
that's enough from me.
You don't have one more little message? You don't want to wish everybody good luck or anything like that?
Well, let's see how we go. Of course I wish people good luck. And let's hold hands and sort this thing out this year. Enough's enough. And again, repeating myself, we can do it very quickly, very cheaply, and it'll benefit all of us. I don't think what I'm asking for is too radical. I really don't.
It's not.
Bye.